Hello, welcome to the European Open Briefing for Thursday, April the 5th. I'm Rafi Barajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. So we're seeing a fairly solid rebound for the US dollar this morning as those fears of a potential trade war between the US and China subside somewhat following some comments from the US chief economic advisor. So stocks are up as a result of the improving risk sentiment and safe havens such as the yen and gold are retreating this morning. The euro and the pound are somewhat subdued this morning ahead of services PMIs for the region, but we are seeing fairly firm Canadian dollar and the Mexican peso on expectations that a deal on NAFTA will be agreed soon. So let's take a quick look at major pairs and equities. We can see the dollar broadly firmer this morning. Dollar index at 90.24 at the moment. Dollar yen has broken above the 107 level. The euro and the pound are slightly weaker versus the US currency, and commodity-linked currencies, the Aussie Kiwi, are also lower, though the loonie is just slightly positive. Gold is down by 0.5% as a result of that bounce in risk appetite. If you look at stocks, we saw a positive close at Wall Street yesterday. S&P closed up by over 1%, and we're seeing strong open in Europe as well. It was a bit of a mixed session in Asia. Most were in the green, although many markets, such as in China and Hong Kong, they were closed this morning for national holiday. We can see the Nikkei up 1.5%. So let's get started now with the US dollar. We can see the dollar yen quite significant gains since Monday when it had it had broken below the 106 level. It's now back above the 107 level. We saw large swings in US stocks yesterday. Major indices recorded sharp losses before managing to close 1% higher. So this comes after remarks by President Trump's chief economic advisor Larry Kudlow, who played down talk of a trade war between the two nations. He said, "I don't think it's a trade war," and that there are intense negotiations on both sides. So this led to investors to take the view that this is just a negotiating tactic by the US, and that the US won't actually go through with those tariffs, which actually won't come into effect until sometime in June or July. So there is plenty of time for negotiations, and it's potentially those tariffs will never come into force. So that's the current view of the markets. That's really driving this improving risk appetite this morning. We can see dollar yen hitting a 3-week high, and the dollar index currently trading near 2-week highs. We did also get fairly solid data out of the US yesterday. The ADP employment report came in above expectations, indicating that tomorrow's non-farm payrolls report would also be positive. We also, although the ISM non-manufacturing PMI and factory orders were slightly below expectations, they were nevertheless fairly solid numbers. We also do have Fed Chair Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow, so those are the next big focus in terms of the US dollar, assuming, of course, we don't have any developments on the trade front. Moving on to gold, we can see it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for the precious metal yesterday. It rallied to as much as a 1-week high of $1,348 an ounce before falling back sharply following those remarks by US officials, and now we are seeing those trade risks subside significantly. So we saw strong recovery in Asia. We're seeing strong open in Europe as well. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this positive risk sentiment holds for the remainder of the day. Moving on to European currencies, we can see the euro still struggling. It's testing the key support at around $1.2250 an ounce. It briefly broke that support to touch a 3-week low of 1.2247. So recent data out of the Eurozone hasn't been very inspiring, particularly the PMI numbers. The March figures are also showing a slowdown in economic growth during the first quarter of 2018. And yesterday we also had the flash CPI readings for March, although the headline rate jumped from 1.1 to 1.4%. One of the core measures came in below expectations at just 1%, and this has reinforced the view that the ECB will only move very gradually in withdrawing stimulus. The stronger dollar is also, of course, weighing on the euro this morning, and to a lesser extent on sterling. Sterling has been slowly edging upwards this week, but it does appear to have found resistance at the 1.41 level. It's currently hovering around 1.4050. UK service PMI will be out very shortly, so that could potentially cause some volatility for the British currency. So let's take a look at the Canadian dollar and the Mexican peso now, because those signs of progress in the NAFTA talks are really driving the two currencies higher versus the US dollar. The loonie hit another fresh 5-week high this morning of 1.2740. The Mexican peso rose to a 6-month high of 18 pesos to the US dollar. We had positive remarks from Canada's foreign minister, who said that they're making good progress, though they're not quite there yet. Larry Kudlow, the Trump's economic advisor, says some positive news on NAFTA, and I think the stock market is going to love that. So this is encouraging the markets, and basically that's helping the two currencies, given that both currencies, both Canada and Mexico, are hugely reliant on trade with the United States. Many reports are suggesting that a preliminary deal could be agreed by mid-April. And moving now on to the Australian and New Zealand dollars, although the two currencies did extend yesterday's gains in early Asian trading, both currencies have since faltered. The Aussie, after touching a 1.5-week high of 0.7726 to the dollar, has now retreated slightly below the key 0.77 level. The Kiwi did rise to a 3-week high of 0.7322 before it also slipped below a key level, currently trading around 0.7295. We did have some positive data out of Australia earlier today. The services PMI came in above expectations, and also trade numbers were also positive as well. But the stronger dollar this morning is pressuring the two currencies. And looking at today's economic calendar, we can see Eurozone PMIs are due shortly, followed by the UK services PMIs. Then we're going to have producer prices and retail sales out of the Eurozone, and in the US the focus will be on the trade numbers for February, the weekly jobless claims, and the Canadian export and import numbers are due out as well, plus a speech by Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic that's due at 16 hours GMT. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.